Drigdrisha Viveka, the Acharya there shares, near the end of the text, instructions on how to meditate. And the Acharya shares that the culmination of closed-eye meditation is open-eye meditation. The culmination of what we do in our room, in our homes, in the morning when it's quiet, is to do the same when we are in our workplaces, when we are at school, when we're with our families, when we're here, when we leave here. Many times, I meet people who come to satsangs, who go to courses, and they're motivated, they're ready to move, they're inspired. And they tell me, I want to go here, I want to become this. And my simple response to them is, where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? Where you are is where you need to go. Who you are is who you need to be. Vedanta is a vision. This is not a lifestyle. What you do as a lifestyle with this vision is up to you. Please remember, this is a vision. That's why we have people who are Vedantins who are total yogis, totally independent. We have Vedantins who are totally bhogis, totally dependent. But this vision is, this is done for God, this is done for God. Genuinely. Not all of us who are bhogies. Yeah, we do this for God too. So many times we've read, we've heard, a spiritual person does not do different things, rather, they do things differently. When one studies in Bharat, some call it a brahmachari course, I like to call it a Vedanta course. When you finish the course, you have the vision, ideally. What you do with that vision is up to you. In I Love You letters, one of the Ra's that Gurudev gives, you know, Ra originally came from Gurudev. Maybe not those exact letters, but isn't it that he wrote a letter every 2 weeks? And he asked the children, this is a book for kids apparently, he asked the children to go tell people who they don't like that they don't like them. And then he says, now work on starting to like them. Imagine I gave you that as a Ra. Go tell people you don't like that you don't like them. There'd be non-stop chatter. See how intense Gurudev's message is? Don't go around pleasing the world. He's telling kids, right from the start, focus on something deeper. Focus on happiness. And so in our concluding discourse on Love Thyself, we will now focus on Love Thy Mother. And I must express my gratitude to all of you, because each day more people come. It gets colder, yet more people come. That shows that this is actually worthwhile. That it's getting more intense outside, yet more people are coming inside. And yes, it's warm in here, but I'll just pretend like you're coming to listen to these thoughts. And I have a whole lot of questions that I'm going to try to go through today for sure. And if you have more, you can start writing those down. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna uses the word Kripanaha. For all our Hindi speakers, what does Kripanaha mean? Miser, conjuice. I like that word, conjuice. You can never say conjuice and not smile, conjuice. You always have to smile when you say it. A kripana, a miser, at an absolute level, is someone who is born as a jiva, someone who's born with ignorance, but dies without releasing themselves of that ignorance, without realizing that they're beyond that. Such a person is a miser. At a relative level, a miser is someone who is not happy and doesn't allow other people to be happy either. A miser is someone who's lonely and goes around telling people that you're lonely too. You just don't know it. That way they feel good about themselves. So there's no calmness, and they make everyone else restless as well. For such a lack of enlightenment, for such a lack of happiness, on day one we focused on love thyself. Love who you are. And love here is invest resources, time, and effort into the body, mind, ego, spirit. Then slowly we will come to feel less lonely. We'll be able to be that person for another person. Numerous times I've told people in such a forum, before you enter a serious relationship, whether it's getting married or having a child, or bringing a grandparent to come live with you, doesn't matter. Study some level of Vedanta. Make yourself strong enough for that person. Otherwise, you're a liability to them. When we studied, we had to get an actual MD's note, a physician's note that says, you will be healthy for 2 years. When I went to my physician, he just looked, just signed away. He had no idea what I was doing. Just take it. No questions. No questions asked. Otherwise, I'm a liability on the ashram. One has to be strong enough. And when I think of strengthening the body, mind, ego, spirit, I'm reminded of Swami Chinmayananda when you go to him for prasad. So when you go to Swami Chinmayananda for prasad, he gives you 3 like raisinets or Skittles or jelly beans. Really awesome prasad. Whenever I go to that ashram, I prostrate around Lord Shiva, and then they have a side room that I disappear to, and I just eat that prasad. And then come teach a class for everyone there. First prasad, healthy body. Second prasad, pure mind. Third prasad, brilliant intellect. The students have to say this, the adults have to say this to get this prasad. In other words, love thyself, love thyself, love thyself. That's prasad. Real prasad you give to yourself. Further on in Gita, Lord Krishna uses the word stena. And stena is even more intense than kripana. What does stenaha mean? Thief. He's telling Prince Arjuna who a thief is. And at an absolute level, again, he's saying to Prince Arjuna, a thief is someone who does not use the gift that I've given to realize that they are infinite. Someone who dies before realizing that they're Brahman. And to bring some logic into this, animals cannot be enlightened. They're called bhoga yogis. They only evolve to a certain level, that is to a human level. Humans can be enlightened. We're called yoga yogis. We can go up, we can go down. Animals do not have an intellect. Humans do have an intellect. If you subtract the common variables, then intellect equals enlightenment. And so the gauge of the greatness of a human being is how much do they use their intellect. And we do it with what we're going to eat, the clothes we're going to wear, what vacation we're going to go on to. But what about what will actually make me happy instead of pretending to make me happy? That person is great. Not using one's intellect, one is an inefficient animal. Animals can jump higher, run faster, bite harder, deal with the cold more than we do. We're just an inefficient animal. Someone had said that humans came from monkeys and the monkeys were insulted. At a relative level, what it means to be a thief, stenaha, is to be ungrateful for the blessings one has in one's life. The blessings of good health, the blessings of a free country, the blessings of satsang. To be ungrateful is someone who is a thief. Because a lot is being invested in them, but they're doing nothing with it. Doesn't it break a parent's heart when a child hurts themselves, meaning they don't grow? And if I had more time, I'd talk about Mother Sumitra's relationship with Sri Lakshmana and how he was a fulfillment of motherhood, how he made his mother's name shine, using the gift that his mother gave him. Amazing. Sri Lakshmana is awesome. And so, to avoid being a stenaha, a thief, yesterday we focused on loving thy neighbor. Loving thy neighbor is serving. Loving thyself, grow. Loving thy neighbor, serve. Now that I'm strong enough, what do I do with all of this? I serve. It's an evolution, as I mentioned in the first day when I introduced the subject. Our resources, time, and effort has to be directed all around us. All types of relationships. Right down to those people who are complete strangers. Who is your first God? Matra Devo Bhava. And it's fascinating, when translated into English, mother is like God. Where did the word like come from? There's Matra Devo Bhava. Bhava means is, it doesn't mean like. Mother is God. But the translator had a problem with his mother, so okay, I'm just going to dilute this up. Next God, Pitra Devo Bhava. Again, no like there. Father is God. Third, Acharya Devo Bhava. No like there. And then comes, what's the fourth? Atiti Devo Bhava. Titi means appointment, invitation. So when I give you a titi, it's like, come to my home at this time. Atiti, without appointment. Now I can only imagine what would happen if someone came to your home without letting you know. So first of all, you hide so they think nobody's there, right? But then they see you, so now you have to open the door. So you quickly grab some bags. Oh, I was just on my way out. But they're groceries. What are you taking the groceries out for? Even with Titi, see, a lot of times Sheila and I go to Bhiksha, and so we ring the doorbell and they open. But who opens? Their 4-year-old son. And he opens, turns around, Mom! And runs away then. Sure, we'll come inside. And we're just waiting, their shoes on, coats on. Husband's looking from above the staircase. Mother's frantic. She's burning half of her sari, trying to light the diya. So even with Titi, it's so hard to bring that readiness, to bring that service. But the message here is to love thy neighbor, even those who come without appointment. Strangers. Then we went through a shloka from chapter 6 that highlights 9 different specific relationships that cover the spectrum of all the people we know. And one of our chicks was saying, there's a lot of madhyasthas in my life. And I was happy that she was analyzing the people in her life. Who's this person? Who's this person? Who's this person? The easy thing is everyone's an Ari. So we start at the bottom. The hardest people to get along with. And I need to add a thought here too. Today when someone offered Guru Dakshina, he included a note. Thank you for teaching us how to get along with the second hardest group of people, referring to yesterday's lecture, and the first hardest on the first day. The hardest person to get along with is ourselves. Second is everyone else. Really insightful. You probably wrote it by accident, but we'll take it at a high level. So the hardest group to get along with is a Bobby. Someone who has the vision to not learn. Someone who has a vision to not change. It doesn't matter what you do to them, what you say to them, they are not going to listen, they are not going to change. So what should you do? Nothing. When I was thinking about this, I was reminded of my father, not because he's a papi, but because when I had finished business school and I started working, then we were installing a new security system in our home. And I called and I negotiated the right price, and they came and serviced it, and then they called back saying we gave you the wrong price. And I got into this intense argument with this person, the customer service person. And I was saying, do you know what school I got into? Very arrogantly I was saying that. And my father was there, and then when I hung up, I'm breathing heavy, mad. You know what kind of people work? And he goes, don't try to teach people principles. Let the world teach them principles. You're not the person to teach him that. And it stuck very deeply with me. Whenever I'm in an obviously right situation, I'm not in that position to teach anyone. Let the world teach that person what is right, what is wrong. So with a papi, someone who doesn't study the scriptures, maybe someone who doesn't follow values, let them be. Easier than that is someone who is an Ari. Someone who causes harm without you having done anything. And how should we relate to such people? How should we serve such people? Just listen to them. That's it. Don't talk to them. It'll naturally turn into a debate. Just listen to them. Speaking is one of the most energy-consuming activities one can do. I'm surprised at how much energy people have based on how much they talk. And so after a discourse, I just want to be. So I finished a discourse at a certain center. They took me to Bhiksha, and I sit down just in my own world. Another young man comes and sits beside me, goes on and on about organized religion, brainwashing people, on and on, throwing out so much academia, looks at me and says, so what do you feel about religion? And I smiled at him, exactly how you feel. And then I looked straight ahead and smiled again, and he was like, he was waiting for that debate. He planned his whole day for that debate. And fortunately, by my indiscriminative tiredness, I just listened and said nothing. And it totally disarmed him. With an Ari, disarm them by listening to them. And then we have a Dvesha, someone who harms us because we harm them. How to serve such a person? Talk to them. Talk to them about your thoughts, your opinion, their opinion. Find out how they think you harm them. Talk to them. Adi, listen to them. Dvesha, talk to them. One group of people, hard to get along with. Medium group of people, we shift to Udasina. Udasina means someone who's indifferent. You get out of the hospital, good. You go into the hospital, good. That's their attitude. And now many of you were studying advanced Vedantic texts. Udasina is also a quality of Brahman. Udasina means the one who's above all. That's not this Udasina. That's why one needs a guide to interpret these words. Otherwise, someone who's aloof is like Brahman? Awesome. I think I'm enlightened. For someone who is indifferent, give them a purpose. Suggest to them a purpose. My sisters and I have an older sister and a younger sister. We all went to the same elementary school, all went to the same high school. My younger sister and I even went to the same business school. Same cousins, same friend circle. And it's as if post-university we all just went our own ways. My younger sister focuses on Chinmaya mission when convenient. If the class is in her place, she'll come. If it's not in her place, then she won't come. My older sister, even if it's at her place, she won't come. So anti in this regard. And I devoted my whole life to all of this. So the way I talk to my younger sister is very different than when I talk to my older sister, though. We do not talk about Chinmaya mission. We talk about my nephews, her sons, her work, etc., etc. We just do not come into this territory. And it's fine. Occasionally I'll sneak in an Acharya to her email address. Or talk about this subject. Very lightly I'll put in that satsang. If she catches it, good. If not, udasi. Easier than that is a madhyastha. Madhyastha is a well-wisher. Someone who wishes well for you, wishes well for everyone. With this term, madhyastha is sometimes referred to as the Guru, as God. When we chant Guru Stotram, don't we say bhukti mukti pradata cha? If you want bhukti, take it. I bless you in that way. If you want mukti, take it. I bless you in that way too. You want prosperity? Sure. You want peace? Sure. Madhyastha. How do we relate to such people? Appreciate them. Anyone who has encouraged us in our life, appreciate them. How do we lose from that? We gain, they gain too. We're doing the same to them, madhyastha. Higher than that, or easier to get along with, apparently, bandhu. Relatives. At a high level, a relative is a relative. Please keep that in mind. A relative is relative. But it seems like as soon as we become householders, the relative gets rocketed to absolute. And absolute gets rocketed down to relative. That's someone who practices aviveka. They're indiscriminate. Our relationship with Bhagavan is not time-based. It didn't start in time, so it won't end in time. Every other relationship in this room started in time. And if it starts in time, it will end in time. It doesn't matter how much we try to buy more time or cry for more time, this will end. So give them their appropriate positions. Now for all of our people in the room who are not parents, practice Shreyas with your parents. Shreyas is long-term thinking. Shreyas is a path of most resistance. Shreyas is taking the hard route initially only to make it easier. Such as telling your parents the truth. It's much easier to circumvent them. Say you're going here, but you're actually going here. Say you're with this person when you're actually with that person. Say you're doing well in school when you're actually not doing well in school. It's much easier to do that, correct? Correct? Correct. Practice Shreyas. It will be hard initially to tell the truth. But in the end, in the long run, it will be easier. They will trust you more, you will trust them more. It disturbs me when people tell me about their relationship with their parents, and they're looking to me to justify their lack of discipline, their untruthfulness, or whatever it is. Yeah, Vivekji, you know us. You know it's okay that I'm doing this. No, it's not okay that you're doing this. Give me some money and we'll see. It's not okay. Don't put that on me. You be strong enough to know that you need to follow Shreyas. It's hard in the short term, but in the long term, it's easy. So, with our relatives, let us connect with them at a deeper level. And it's harder, but in the long run, it becomes easier. Second group of people. We shift to the third group of people. Mitra. A mitra is someone who is affectionate. And what we need to do to serve such friends is you have to believe that you are a friend. Many of us are so down on ourselves. Many of us think we're not deserving of friends. We don't have virtues to have you in my life. The way you treat me, I don't feel like I am worthy of you. If you don't believe you have those virtues, how can you have those virtues then? Believe you do have those virtues, and slowly they will manifest. Swami Shivananda says, as you think, so you develop. Wonderful. Not as you become, fine, it's passive. As you develop, so strong of a message. Believe that you have these virtues. Openly be affectionate with people. Swami Shivananda, I haven't heard, not that I've heard him, but read a single negative word in his writing. Gurudev only if he's telling a story or joke of some sort. But praise, praise, praise. In a time when everyone's trying to pull everyone down, be that person who lifts people up. Be a friend. A husband and wife were watching television. It was Valentines Day. And they're watching a rom-com. Why, I don't know. I actually do know, because she wanted to watch the rom-com. Sheila and I had a Netflix account. And she very aptly observed with me, if it's a movie I want to watch, which is never a rom-com, highly vigilant. As soon as the rom-com starts, within 3 minutes, fast asleep. So this husband and wife were watching. This husband, he's way better than I am. And this husband's so affectionate with his wife, caressing her hair, hugging the belt, right? In one of the Bhagavad stories, caressing her hair, kissing her on the cheek, massaging her legs. And this wife is like, it's Valentine's Day. How come you can't be like this at least one day? He looks at her. Do you know how much he's paid to do that? Don't be that kind of person. Whether you get affection or not, give affection. Mitra. Higher than that, easier to get along with, Sure. Good-hearted person who has no expectations. Gurudev, with the Vedanta course, he took so many people from other courses, from people who were part of other organizations who had their own gurus, that came and studied Vedanta with Gurudev or the Acharyas of Chinmaya Mission, and then they went back to their organizations, to their gurus. In my own course, we had 3 people who had their own gurus, and they were treated just as normally as me or the person Y over there. No expectations. How big such a heart would have to be to not require anything to go in there. Just keep taking. Someone had asked me yesterday about being taken for granted. And I shared, if you don't feel like you're being taken for granted, then you're not being taken for granted. It's that simple. If the whole world says you're being taken for granted, but you don't feel it, then you're not being taken for granted. Mother Sita never complained about going to Valmikiji's ashram. Why do we complain? What gives us the authority? What gives us the audacity to complain for her? She's happy. She's safe. Her sons turned out to be brilliant. If you don't feel like people are taking you for granted, keep giving. Give recklessly. And the highest relationship that we can come across, and so the easiest to get along, is a sadhu. Someone who lives a life of values. How should we serve such a person? Do whatever they ask you to do. Do whatever you feel they would want of you. They are the highest, and if we can serve them, we start to rise to that same perspective as well. And for those who are studying Tattva-bodha, when someone's enlightened, they're performing actions, but there's no ego behind it, so the fruits of those actions get distributed. It can't come back to them because there's no ego to accept that. So all of the fruits of their actions are distributed to devotees. So if you do no sadhana in your life, find someone who is enlightened and just serve them in all ways. And you too will be enlightened. And to contradict what I already began with, I said animals cannot be enlightened unless they serve the enlightened. If anyone's been to Ramana Ashram in Tamil Nadu, Jackie the cow was given samadhi. Lakshmi the cow, Jackie the dog. His cow, his dog, they were all given samadhi with no doubt. He's Bhagavan, Ramana Maharishi. That's like me saying, oh Bhagavan, you don't follow logic. I am logic. I created logic. I changed logic. I can do whatever I want. For a sadhu, when we serve them, all of those positive karmas are bestowed upon us. Go through these relationships. Perhaps we're udasina right now. Then become someone who's madhyastha. Become someone who's bandhu. And keep moving up like that. Become that sadhu. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking about Sheila going through this. We've known each other for 10 years now. It was January 16th, 2005. She keeps saying it's the 17th, but I know it's the 16th. So we've known each other for more than 10 years now. The first 5 years, I went up this list. The last 5 years, she's gone up this list. We met in 1997 at a Chinmay mission camp, the first one for me. And we were both in high school, and I'm a year and a half older than her. So she remembers me, but I don't remember her. Older kids, cooler kids, don't remember those really. And she insists that I remember her, but I'm telling her, I don't remember her. So in 1997, let's put Sheila at Udasina. Indifferent. We know each other, but that's it. Then fast forward to 2004. Before the discourse, Guruji gave me permission. Yes, come and study. After the discourse, we see each other at a bookstall outside. She was probably trying to sell the books. Like she's selling the core material. So Udasina turned to Madhyastha, a well-wisher. How's work going? We should spend some more time together. Madhyastha turned into Bandhu when we got married. Right? Now we have to pseudo-be connected to each other. Hey, just because you're married, it doesn't mean you're connected. You're all picking on everything that I say. Then Bandhu turned into Mitra. We actually became friends after we got married, not before. It went from Gandharva love to actual love. Gandharva love is fun. But then when you become a friend, it turns into something real. And then Mitra turned into Suhrid. And here is where, if someone doesn't have expectations of me in life, I've already talked about Guruji yesterday, Sheila's another person who does not have expectations of me. When we got married the first day, Sheila cried when she came to our home for the first day. Because she's a Toronto girl and I live in Niagara Falls. People don't know people live in Niagara Falls. It's that small of a city. And no rasa. And she would share that, we'll move out after a year, we'll move out after 2 years. Now we've been living there for 5 years cheerfully, and now we're thinking about changing parts of where we live, which means we're going to be there longer. No conditions. It's not often that someone would live in her husband's place with his parents, in a basement. No expectations is my point. It makes it very easy to get along with such people. People who say, I want to be with a high maintenance person, they're lying. Who would want to be with a high maintenance person? Already everyone's tired. Why do you want to put more effort into this? So my point in this is wherever we are, because someone said, I was identifying other people in my life. Really, I should identify where I am in this spectrum and move up. And if you really, really, really want to love someone, get enlightened. Because if you do, you take down 7 generations above and 7 generations below, you take down their vasanas. You can buy a home for your parents. You can take your spouse on a cruise. You can pay for your kids' education. But they can do that too. But what if they can't reduce their vasanas and you can? You get enlightened. You give them that gift which they cannot give themselves. Get enlightened. Just bring such lightness to your family. Family you don't even know. Look at what he's done for us. He doesn't know most of the people here. But he's taking down our vasanas, isn't it? We can't do it, so he's doing it for us. God and Guru. The last word that is used for relationships is cha. Cha means I've listed 9. Now it doesn't matter what other relationships, do what it takes to serve them. Why Bhagavan has 4 hands if he has infinite? 4 represents that infinity. You and I can't see infinity. It's symbolism. That's what that cha is. It's when 2 people come together as one without a fight for control. 2 people often become one, but it's always a power struggle. But imagine 2 becoming one and not having that struggle. That's someone who is serving thy neighbor. And we see this so beautifully with Hanumanji. Hanumanji's Ashta Siddhi. He can be big, small, heavy, light, etc., etc. Ishitvam, Vashitvam. Last 2. Ishitvam means the ability to rule over all people. Vashitvam, the ability to control people. One from above, one from below. How does he do it? How does he rule people from above? By leading by example. He does everything he wants someone else to do, so when people see him, they can't help but do the same. Lead by example. We take our present Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Many people have started dressing like him, correct? We were in Rajasthan recently, and two men, we were in this huge park, and people were littering like it was their job. And two random people enjoying, all of a sudden just started picking up bags. I thought it was like televised, like, you know, those weird, like we're going to scare people now, or we're going to sell something. But they were just picking up bags everywhere. Amazing. I just thought if those two people, if two more people did it, they'd get work done faster. Lead by example. That's what Hanumanji did. Vashikam, how is it that you control people? With love. How can you stop your heart from melting when someone loves you? Your heart melts into their heart. And you become a puppet to them happily. That's what's amazing. You're happily, yeah. Take me where you want. Do whatever you want with this. What Swami Chinmayananda shared with us once, that Gurudev squeezed every last drop of his BMI for nourishing us. Squeezed. Imagine his body literally being squeezed. His mind, his intellect. Nothing else remains there. So that we can be stronger. And he did it cheerfully. Not like, oh, it's so miserable. All of these people keep asking me questions. All of these people keep giving me their problems. Cheerfully. I heard that Anna Shubhalakshmi actually went to Gurudev once when she wasn't doing too well. She was getting older. She went very down to Gurudev. And he got out of his seat and started dancing around like this. That's how I dance. That's how I make you dance. And his response to her was, at least you're alive. You know, how can one present that message more optimistically than, look, I'm older than you, and look at me moving my body. You're alive. You did it for everything for us. Hanumanji loved everyone, which is why he controlled everyone. Love thyself evolves to, which is growth, evolves to love thy neighbor, which is service, which then evolves to love thy mother. Which mother? When I say mother, immediately we think of our biological mother. But is that the only mother? Is that our highest mother? A mother is someone who gives birth. That's what we call our guru. You are my mother, you are my father, you are my friend, you are my knowledge, you are everything. Someone who gives birth is a mother. So it could be a guru, it could be a book, it could be God, but someone who gives birth is a mother. And anyone who gives birth will naturally become one's protector. For anyone who's given birth to a company, did you give birth to it and let it burn then? You protected it. Look at how Swamiji, Shankarji, Ashokji, all of the people in Chicago protect this place. You better keep that wire where you got it from. Protecting this place. They gave birth to it. They're protecting it. They want us to protect it too. And that message alone should make us confident. That someone gave birth to me. I didn't give birth to myself. Someone did. It doesn't matter what label you apply. Biological mother, divine mother, father, guru, God, nature, universe. But whoever gave birth to us will protect us. So why is it that we feel insecure? There's a native Indian tradition, hypothetically. When a child is becoming an adult, they're passing through puberty, then early in the morning, that father wakes up that child And they walk all day through the forest with no communication. They walk and walk and walk. And once the sun starts to set, they stop. And that father tells that child to sit on the ground or a boulder or a stump, and then takes out a blindfold. And then clubs self-loving it. Music from the sky. He takes out that blindfold and blindfolds that child and says, I will be here in the morning to bring you home. And that child is blindfolded, and that child is still okay because the sun is still going through that blindfold. But then the sun sets. It becomes cooler, windier, the noises pick up, animals are howling, hooting. And each moment feels like it's a minute, an hour. It just goes on and on and on, like discourses. Not mine, someone else's. And then finally, shaking in body, in mind, sees the first ray of sun and takes off that blindfold. And their father is sitting right next to them, with them the whole night. How could have that father left that child over there in the middle of the forest? You and I are that blind, ignorant child, thinking we're alone. And so what do? We go to Niagara Falls and we buy those footsteps plaques and hang them in our house or put those magnets there. Yeah, God is carrying me when I'm down. Yet equally afraid whenever anything happens. If we've been given birth, we will also be given protection. And if we're given protection, we will also be guided by our mother to change. Some people would call that destruction. Bhagavan is the generator, operator, destroyer, dissolver. Bhagavan is the changer. See, Bhagavan, Krishna, let's go to Bhagavan Rama. Bhagavan Rama never killed anyone. He never destroyed anyone. Whenever people were killed, that ray of light was brought back to Lord Rama. When the war was over, he ordered Indra, come here, you sprinkle everyone with that nectar that you have. So he came, started sprinkling all of the monkeys, all of the demons with this Amrita. And only the monkeys came back to life, the animals. Someone questioned Lord Rama. I think Indra diluted this. It doesn't seem to be working. He says it is working, but the last sight that all those Rakshasas had was of me. So where are they? They're with me in Sake, my abode. He never killed anyone. He freed them. When he hits you and I with his gada, his mace, when he cuts us down with his chakra, his discus, he's just making us better. And it hurts. I don't know if you've ever been hit by a gada. I haven't either, but it probably hurts. But it's for our growth. Love thy mother means to shift from being someone who is selfish, who doesn't even love themselves. I grow to love myself, I serve to love my neighbor, and then I identify with my mother. So the third definition of love is identify. Grow, serve, identify. And isn't that what Vedanta constantly shares? How do you know you love yourself? Because you identify with yourself. And we did a fun exercise in the serious Kaivalya Upanishad class today. You do look like this when you talk about Kaivalya Upanishad. Take your finger out. Now switch to your left finger. Now to your right. Now just keep going like this. Really take your right finger out. Now you're the no. Now slowly bring it to your right eye. Okay? Bring it back. Quickly bring it to your right eye. And you didn't flinch. Whether slow or fast, you didn't. Now do it to the person sitting next to you. And even if it's slowly coming, no. Because you don't identify with the person next to you. You identify with your finger, your hand, your arm, your eye, your brain. You know all this. But as soon as another person's finger, even if it's your child's finger, you flinch. What my younger sister and I used to do when we were going on road trips is one of us would try to sleep and we would just keep our finger next to their eye. So they moved a little bit. And it's the worst because once it happens once, you can't close your eyes because you can't. Identify. Words like compassion. Compassion is a Latin word that means the ability to suffer with another. If you can suffer with another, that means you can put yourself in their perspective. Empathy. Empathy means love, that your problems are as important as my problems. And identification, we've heard that word so many times from Gurudev, from Guruji. To serve thy mother, one has to let go of differences. Tat tvam asi. Tat tvam asi is you're the same. But how? That's everything. I'm something. How can that be the same? Drop the every in the sum, and what remains? Just the thing. We are that infinitude, but I keep looking at the limitations. If I stop looking at the limitations, I'm not different from that higher being. I may have shared this with you before, and even if I did, just look like you're interested. Like you've been doing for 3 days. I was going to my car in Niagara Falls, and the girl came up to me and said, "Do you have any money?" Asking me, not mugging me. People don't mug in Niagara Falls. They only ask. As soon as she said it, and I laughed at myself, how conditioned my mind is. In my mind, people don't ask me for money. I ask people for money. I said no. And as she's about to turn around, "You have some paint on your forehead." I'm wearing my tilak. It's not paint, it's sandalwood paste. Like she'll know what sandalwood paste is. Why you wear it? It's a reminder to me that with my eyes, I see you're a girl and I'm a boy and I'm a little bit taller and you're a little bit shorter. But with the eye of my mind, with the eye of wisdom, I see that we're alive for the same reason. That same life principle, that same life spark. I didn't say Tattvamasi. Atman. Aham Atman, you too. So I'm sharing all of this, feeling really good, right? This is going to be awesome. Like all of these years I spent investing in Vedanta, this is going to work. She crosses her arms like this and says, "No, we're not. We're not married." Like a diva, not just ordinary, we're not married. We're not married. See, she's only looking at me from her eyes. Obviously, we look so different. Every day we look different. But if we look at ourselves past these differences, like this morning, remember with everyone's hands up, then there's nothing but that oneness. Our masters lived this. And why I'm saying our masters lived this? Because we've heard 1,000,000 times that we are one. And then as soon as we leave here, we live as two, and multiples of two, and exponents of two, and all of that. Just separate. But our masters didn't. Swami Shivananda lived in the jungle full out, where there's scorpions and snakes and tigers and wild elephants and wild boars. And he lived there without any malice in his heart, so none of those animals had malice towards him. Who is this Swami Shivananda? A few years ago in Kentucky. Yeah, I don't know where that is either. I read about this place called Kentucky. So in Kentucky, there's this boy, this autistic boy, who got lost. He was, I think, 12 or 13 or 14. And then this huge 150-person search party for him, concerned that he may not be able to find his way home. And they went into this forest, and they heard this pack of wild dogs barking. And as they approached this pack of dogs had made a circle around this boy, protecting him from whatever would have happened in that forest. Imagine one wild dog came towards you. Fight or flight. In either case, we would lose. This boy has a pack of dogs around him. No fear in his heart towards those dogs. So those dogs have no fear towards him. Just a couple of years ago. So whether you take 60 years ago or 2 years ago, people do live beyond differences. Abraham Lincoln was such a person. Again, he grew up in Kentucky. Theme of the day, Kentucky. In the middle of nowhere, ends up in Springfield, Illinois, practicing attorney. How in the world did this person identify so thoroughly with the people of America that he took on the responsibility of millions of people being killed? Killing each other. It's not from a disease or a foreigner. It's from their own people to civil war. Shreyas. He knew that this is a cost that has to happen for people to be free in the long term. His wife questioned him. Do you even care that our son died? And his response to that is, when our son died, I wish I could have crawled into the grave to die with him. Huge person, imagine crawling into a grave of his son just to die with him. But he knew that if he didn't keep serving his mother, that is America, way more graves would have been filled with such people. There are people all around us who live such oneness. I've seen Guruji get into full-out arguments with a person, and then when the argument is finished, laughing with that person. Like kids do, right? You're so mean. You didn't buy tricks. You didn't buy tricks, but you go to the next aisle and you buy something else. Yeah, you're my favorite parent. Look beyond those differences. And as we've been focusing a lot on our Guru Shishya Parampara, Gurudev was once asked, what will you feel if Chinmaya Mission does not continue the way it has while you're around? And he said, I don't care how Chinmaya Mission does, even when I am around. That's how his vision was not about Chinmaya Mission, nor about Indians or Hindus. It was about humanity. Chinmaya Mission, differences. Indians, differences. Hindus, differences. Humanity, no differences. There are people who live like this and are trying for us to do the same. A mother is someone who gives birth to us, protects us, changes us. Now that I know this, birth, protection, and change, I go back to how we started this. Who is your mother? And for each person, it may be different, but I think that there's 3 mothers that are common to all of us. How can you love thy mother today? We start with CCMT, Central Chinmaya Mission Trust. My mother and father went on the Chinmaya Dham Yatra with Guruji. I keep talking about a yatra. That's at a much smaller scale. Guruji went to so many awesome places in Bharat with 50 people from North America and around the world. When my parents came back, I said, how was it? And their first statement to me was, what happens within Chinmaya Mission in India? What happens with Chinmaya Mission in North America? We only do 1% of the work that's being done in India. We keep applauding ourselves and patting ourselves on the back. Big centers, lots of Balavihara students, so many retreats, 1%. 99% of the work happens under CCMT. And anyone who's been to Bharat with me, you will agree with me. You have to. At least in this form, just say yes. So how to love thy mother? Take up a position in Chinmaya Mission. The position is up to you. Be the treasurer. Be the Balavihara coordinator. Be a camp coordinator. Be the Bhiksha coordinator. Teach Balavihara. Move seats. Light the diya. Be the official diya lighter. Take up a position. And why a position? Because a commitment creates discipline. Commitment creates discipline. For those who are in an undergraduate program, it's much easier to complete that degree than a PhD program. In the PhD program, there's no commitment. You have to create that discipline yourself. In an undergraduate program, there's a lot of commitment, financial commitment, parent commitment, etc. Discipline is much easier. In the ashram, it's a controlled environment. It's easy to be sattvic there. Once you leave that ashram and it becomes a place of lack of control or chaos, that's reality. Take up a position in Chinmaya Mission. For all of the chicks who came with me to Bharat, when they came back, each one of them voluntarily had to sign up to serve Chinmaya Mission in India. Whether that's writing articles for Balavihara or serving their IT team or being an ambassador, a friend of CIF. Now that they know the work that's going on there, if you don't love them, apathy. Worse than ignorance. So for all of us, take up a position in Central Chinmaya Mission Trust. And you know why it's called CCMT? On Gurudev's Tulabhara, when he was 75 years old, his body was, they created this huge scale. And anyone who's been to Chinmaya Jivan Darshan, that's the actual scale that's used. And on one side he sat, and on another side people started putting gold coins. This is our gift to you, Gurudev, for your work. And when it was balanced, he got off that scale and walked over to these gold coins, picked them up and started throwing them at people, throwing them back to people. And then he said, CCMT. CC, it's empty. Do you think it's going into his dhoti? That's why he wears a dhoti. You can't hide it. You can't hide anything in here. You gave it. I purified it. Take it back. CCMT. Take up a position. Chinmaya Mission gave birth to you, yes or no? Protects you? Changes you? I was in one satsang on we can, we must, we will. At the end of the satsang, I yelled out, we can! Everyone else yelled, we can. We must! We must. We will! One smart person in the front says, we wish. Next mother, less differences, going higher. Every day, every moment, we keep pushing higher. Bharat. Did Bharat give birth to you? And please don't think of this biologically. Bharat didn't give birth to so many of us biologically. But everything important in our life, he is given birth there. The way we eat, the way we speak, the way we think. One of my regrets from childhood is not speaking to my parents in Hindi. They spoke to my sisters and I in Hindi, we spoke back in English. When I started studying Sanskrit, I learned Vedanta better. Not because of the language, but learning Sanskrit taught me how to think differently. When you know another language, you think differently. You're more open-minded. Bharat, everything important in our life has come from Punya Bhumi. Bharat is called Punya Bhumi. To be able to be born on these grounds, one requires a lot of merit. And here's where I often argue with God. I asked you to give me birth in Bharat. Instead, he gave me birth in Canada. But he said, I'll appease this mistake by putting you in a Kannada family. Because some people say Canada, right? So Canada, Canada, America. How to serve or how to love Bharat? Be an ambassador of Bharat. What an ambassador does is they're proud of think of an ambassador of America in the Middle East or Australia or wherever. They're proud of it. Their cars have the flag. Their suits have a flag. They defend the nation if required. Who hurts Indians the most? Who hurts India the most? Indians. Who badmouths Hindus the most? Hindus. Hindus the most? Hindus. That's why Gurudev said, awaken Hindus to Hinduism. Awaken Indians to India. And now the campaign is awaken Chinmaya Mission to Chinmaya Mission. This tunnel vision, 1%. Wake up! Be an ambassador. I find it hilarious that in such forums, all of the girls come there, salwar kameezes, their kurtis, their saris, and the men come with their shirts, their pants. That's not your clothing. You're British now. Wear your kurta pajamas. Wear your Nemo suits if that makes you feel better. Wear something that is traditional to Bharat. On the yatra, you are not allowed to use utensils. You use your hand. Speak the language. Someone told me, you know where you're from based on your bhashanam, bhushanam, bhojanam. Bhashanam, the way you speak. Bhushanam, the way you dress. Bhojanam, the way you eat. Be an ambassador of Bharat. Identify with when India wins in cricket, you win. This identification is interesting. I was talking about you have to grow, to serve, to identify. Now, a lot of people watch pirated movies. I know none of you watch pirated movies. Never. A lot of people download pirated music. None of you. You don't, I know. I don't even know how to download music. Like, I downloaded my first app ever just last week with a lot of guidance from like 4 or 5 people. It's like an intervention. So now I have WhatsApp. And someone messaged me from India and I was like, how did you message me? You're not even a friend of mine on WhatsApp. She's like, you don't have to be my friend. As long as I have your number, I can access you. I don't like that. I think I'm going to do I would like to have some control in all of this. So, my favorite band is Pearl Jam. I do not buy anything pirated of theirs. I go to their concerts, I look up their pictures online, I study their set lists. Grow, serve, identify. And as I was thinking about this idea of Pearl Jam, I was thinking about our Devikas that are sitting here. So yesterday, I was talking about how when Sheila and I go into a hotel room, we have complete different visions. My vision is on, let's get a fast internet connection. Her vision is on comfort, right? Nice shower, comfort. And naturally, we come late. I sleep later, I wake up earlier. See, all of the devas, yeah, we get it. You do. You sleep later, you wake up earlier. It's okay, all the devikas. How? Well, what do you mean? You must sleep at the same time. See, you identify with it. Correct? Grow, serve, identify in a completely illogical, irrational, non-objective way. All the devas, he said he didn't mean anything more than that. Correct? When we talk about identification, don't make it emotional. Emotional identification is not identification. Having emotions is fine. Being emotional makes one weak. Because then the emotions own you. But if you own the emotions, that's identification. So if India lost yesterday, don't be emotional about it. Do something about it. Swamiji said, join the cricket team. When we were on our yatra, we went to a beetle nut compound, where in a space like this, 300 people live there. Their homes are made up of fiberglass, and their rooms are only separated by cloth, like a shawl. 300 people live there. And Dr. Meir is talking to us about how so many of the kids have scabies, a parasite, a mite that gets into the webbings of their hands and their toes, and they keep scratching, and it gets infected. So she goes in there just for damage control. At least let there be less pain, less infection. The infants can't sleep because the mosquitoes just keep biting them. And when we all went there, a lot of our yatris, they were stunned. They were crying. And that evening when we debriefed, I told them, your shock, your tears mean nothing unless you do something about it. Your identification is just emotions. But if you do something about it, then you've identified with those people suffering. So when we talk about being ambassador of Bharat, that doesn't mean Bollywood. That doesn't mean shanty, shanty, shanty. That doesn't mean namaste. It means living it. It means learning the pronunciations. It means knowing the depth. Knowing what the spirit of Bharat is. Calling oneself religious. I'm spiritual. You have to say it with such finesse. Just say you're confused. It's just being way more transparent. Religion, self-development, theory, application, philosophy, practice. You separate one, how can you grow then? Be an ambassador. CCMT, Bharat, even less differences. Our mother is Bhagwan. Our mother is God. It doesn't matter what name you give this God, but that original parent, that uncaused cause. Identify with her, with him, with it. Whatever that being is, identify with them. And how does one know if one is identified with them? How does one identify with them? When Guruji came to Niagara Falls 2 years ago for a Jnana Yajna, we had a meeting with our steering committee. And I'd just been assigned to look after the Pittsburgh and Cleveland centers as well. And our Niagara steering committee timidity, very apprehensive. Literally, they asked Guruji, what will we do if he starts looking after these centers? Guruji smiled and said 2 Hindi words. Daro mat. Don't be afraid. That's it. He didn't extrapolate, didn't elaborate, he just said, don't be afraid. If I identify with Bhagavan, our mother is telling us, Daro mat. Live fearlessly. Why? She has our back. You've seen an infant, how strong they are when their mother is there. We see that with animals, we see that with human beings. She is behind us. Remember that. When one studies Vishnu Sahasranama, what are these words? If you study carefully, it's everything. Mirror, tree, mountain, walking, fighting, thinking, sleeping, destroyer of bad dreams. Everything. That should be our experience. When I wake up in the morning, Vishnu, 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 Vishnu. Everything is Vishnu. Identify with this message. My last thought in this discourse is grow, serve, identify. Love thyself, neighbor, mother. Many times people call themselves atheists. And they say, I'm a good person. Other people tell me that they know atheists that are better than theists, better people. And they're probably right in that specific context, but not in the full context. An atheist can practice virtues to a high extent, compassion, empathy, love, sharing, generosity. But an atheist will never identify with another person. The way they identify with themselves, they will always have that taint, trace of difference. I love myself unconditionally. And if I don't see me and you, I can never treat you the way I treat me. And an atheist will never think of something that's beyond them. They will not identify with the next person. Whereas a theist, someone who believes in a higher being, someone who believes in that infinitude, they will tune in that, I don't see that infinitude yet, but I'll try. And one day they will, and they will treat that person just as unconditionally as they treat themselves. This is a beautiful difference between an atheist and theist in the context of love. Thyself, thy neighbor, thy mother. One day, a young man was trying to get into a special school, specialized school. So he went and bought Bhagavan Ganesha, nice marble murti, well decorated, well colored. And he came to Chinmaya Mission and he learned how to do Bhagavan Ganesha's puja. And every morning, he would get up at 3 a.m., step into the bathroom, wash his face, go back to bed and sleep some more. And then finally he'd be ready for his puja. And he'd chant the mantras, he'd offer prasad. He'd do all of these prayers. Day after day after day after day. And finally that time passed where he couldn't get into that specialized school. The deadline had passed. They didn't accept him. And so in his total frustration, he says to Bhagavan Ganesha, you didn't get me into this school. You can't get me into this school. I'm done with you. I don't think you have the power. I'm going to your father. I'm going to start worshiping Bhagavan Shiva. So he picks up Bhagavan Ganesha and puts him in the corner. He goes and buys Bhagavan Shiva's murti. Same, gets up at 3, pretends to get up, goes back to sleep, gets up for real, starts his worship. And one day, he's offering dhupa, He's offering that incense and he's waving it like we wave over here. But the incense is going to Bhagavan Ganesha. So he waves harder. Still going to Bhagavan Ganesha. So he kind of like steps this way. Starts waving it this way. But still going around his body into Bhagavan Ganesha's trunk. Puts that down, walks into the bathroom, into his cabinet, pulls out some cotton balls, walks over to Ganesha, Bhagavan Ganesha, sticks it in his trunk. Not for you. And comes back to Bhagavan Shiva. And who's waiting there? Bhagavan Ganesha. What are you doing here? I came to worship your father. All of the times you worshiped me, you never believed I was real. Until today. That you plugged my trunk. You thought that I was taking in that incense. And so, when you gave yourself completely to me, I give myself completely to you. Try it. I'm going to have to do one-word answers for these questions. Actually, I'm sorry. I should give you your rad and ray, and then I'll give you some answers to these questions. We start with the rad. The rad from day one was to count how many times you say, I. And someone actually did it. He counted 98 times. Now you're thinking, what was I supposed to reflect on with this rad? When you say I, who are you referring to? That's what I wanted you to reflect on. You say it 100 times a day, maybe 150 times a day. Who is I? Yesterday's rad was to talk to everyone, including yourself, in third person. And some people loved it. They were so excited to do this. I felt like you didn't need me to give you this ride. You could have just done it yourself. The reflection behind this adventure, when you have to talk to someone in third person, you have to be much more aware. When you have to write in third person, even more aware. Like sometimes when I write to Guruji and I Hari Om to Guruji. How is Guruji doing? I hope Guruji's well. And then Guruji all over it. You must get annoyed of seeing that all the time. But it makes you really vigilant in the way you think and speak and act. Talking in third person, and I can't get into it now. But this is the ashram tradition when it comes to our acharyas, to talk in third person. If you would have listened to some of the yatris, myself, Sheila, with Swamiji. How is Swamiji doing? Can I get something for Swamiji? Does Swamiji need a shawl? Because Swamiji is not an equal to me or to them. He's higher in the scale of relationships. So who are we to treat him as an equal? The more you revere, the more you receive. Your ray, your reflection adventure of the year. Day's over. Tomorrow the ball's in your court. Reflection adventure of the year. What are the three things that we can give to ourselves or our neighbors or our mother? Resources, then time and effort. Let's start with resources. However old you are, that percentage of your gross income is to be given for your mother's work. Your mother's work in this case is God's work. You decide how God's work is done. I'm not specifying that. But however old you are, so if one is 45, 4.5% of your gross income. Gross, not net. And the beauty of this is, next year, you'll give 4.6%. 50%. Sorry, 50. When you're 500 years old. That's what a birthday should be. not where the focus is on me. And going to Bharatiya tradition, on your birthday, you don't collect gifts, you distribute gifts. You don't create darkness, you create light. Being an ambassador. On your birthday, give gifts away. Don't ask for candles. Light a diya at Bhavan's room and that's it. No need for candles. So the percentage of gross income to mother, loving thy mother, identifying with her. Her needs are my needs. And it should grow. When it comes to giving time, same percentage, but hours of the week to your neighbors. So again, if you are 20 years old, 2% of 168 hours should be given to volunteering. So 4 hours out of every week to volunteering. Where this volunteering is directed, whoever your neighbor is. Any of these 9 relationships, right down to a stranger. Give your time by serving neighbors. And every year on your birthday, start to serve more and more. And finally, when one is about to no longer be alive, everything should be given, isn't it? My income, my time. So loving thy mother, resources, loving thy neighbors, time, loving thyself. If you can quantify your efforts, give that percentage in specific sadhana. See, we should be doing sadhana all the time. But the way to do sadhana all the time is with specific sadhana. So if I do japa in a focused way, it will help me do japa while I'm driving or at the grocery store. Specific sadhana, if you can quantify your efforts, invest in your development. How will you grow? If you procrastinate, invest specific efforts to grow out of that procrastination. If you're afraid, specific efforts to grow out of that fear. If you're judgmental, whatever it is. If you don't have work-life balance, invest to find that work-life balance. Don't go on with that. You'll burn out. And every year, more effort, more effort, more effort. That is your ray. And only you will know that if you perform this reflection adventure of the year. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Ready for question marathon? I'm taking 5 more minutes of your time. I've been blessed with success all my life, but I live in fear of failure. How do I overcome this? I've been blessed with success all my life, but I live in fear of failure. How do I overcome this? Number 1, failure helps you to grow. Number 2, what's the worst that can happen? Ask anyone who's failed in their life. It was the biggest deal when you failed, but it was not such a big deal afterwards. And Guruji says the worst that can happen is you can die. And you're born again. You keep going. And at the highest level, there's no such thing as failure. Failure is a mind game. Who said you failed? If you think you've shrunk, you've decided to fail. If you've grown, even if the world hates you, throws stones at you, insults you, you've not failed. How do we balance self-love with self-improvement? You don't balance them. They're exactly the same. If you love yourself, you'll improve. If you're improving yourself, you love yourself. Really what the question is, how do you accept yourself and improve yourself? When you accept yourself, you'll grow from there. If you don't accept yourself, you'll think you're here and nothing will happen. You'll still stay there because there's no right medicine, there's no right technique, because there's no honesty. Be honest, because that's the only way to love and grow oneself. Can personal ambition or ambition in general coexist with one on the path to self-spiritual growth? There is no such thing as professional and personal goals that are separate from each other. If you're doing that, you will lose. The person who doesn't treat every moment of their life as sadhana will not get enlightened. Your work, your school, your friends, your failure, your anxieties, your fear, social media, everything is Bhagwan. Everything we have to learn to have the right relationship with. We have to break that mold that sadhana only happens here. This is not a Sunday religion. Religion is, even though it's Sunday, it's not a Sunday religion. It's also a Saturday and a Friday and a Thursday religion. And Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. If you're thinking, okay, just a Thursday, got it. It seems like they're mutually exclusive. You've made them mutually exclusive. But at the same time, it seems like ambition is required for growth. Not ambition, aspiration. Aspiration is sattvic. I win, you win. Ambition is zero-sum game. I win, you lose. You win, I lose. Change the game. The game is changed by your motive, by your intention, by your attitude. Yoga turns into karma yoga based on one's vision. How does one overcome our moments of weakness when trying to grow, when ego resists expansion? Worldly timelines cannot enter self-development. You can lose weight in 6 weeks. You can pay off a mortgage in 15 years. Getting over anger, no timeline. Getting over ego, way less of a timeline. It's simply based on sincerity. The more sincere you are, the more effort you put in, the less time there is. The more less effort you put in, the more time it'll be. Okay? I'm moving fast, so we can be timely. In life, to achieve most goals, we can measure how we are doing. In a race, we know the halfway point. If enlightenment is a finish line, how can we tell if we are making progress? You smile more. You rebound from falling more. You remember the scriptures more. You treat everything as sadhana. So many gauges. Fundamental gauges, you're just happier. In AP Psych, we learned that children love parents because the baby is dependent on their parents. Is this the same love you are talking about? Instinctual love and nurtured love are different. A baby is dependent on those parents, and I'm unclear if you can call that love. Because a baby doesn't know themselves. If you don't know yourself, how can you consciously express that towards someone else? And though we like to call it love, maybe it's not. It's like a high school relationship. No high school relationship is real. It's convenient. It's not real. Which high school student knows enough about themselves and the world that they can get into a fundamental relationship? And any high school relationship where they go away to separate schools, inconvenient relationship is bust. But once you get to know about yourself, then the real relationship begins. How do we always love ourselves and others? Grow, serve, identify. How to explain a child, mom loves child unconditionally, but the kid is expecting to say, I love you, every time he talks on the phone. Try to encourage that child to understand that you love them, whether you say it or not. Make them feel secure. Protect them. comfort them. If you see in a relationship where there's a lack of faith, that person always has to hear, I need to hear your voice. I need you to say those words. But where there is identification and service and growth, you don't need those words. How did the blind mother walk home on her own? She didn't take for granted her other senses. You lose one, the other one's developed, correct? Like I know this blind mother. So she called me the other day. Should we include the word I as in E-Y-E? No, just focus on pronoun. I like these questions. How do you devote yourself to teamwork? I don't know. I don't know because I can't read it. That's what I mean. How should we help friends who display jealousy, pettiness, manifestations of self-loathing, whose company seems poisonous if we simultaneously think they need our love, support, attention? If I'm drowning in water and you don't know how to swim, don't come in. You will drown, and if you get near me, I'm going to take you down first. Right? Naturally, I'm surviving. If I'm drowning and you know how to swim, it's your responsibility to come and see. Now take that drowning in emotions. If someone's drowning in being emotional, and you're strong enough to not succumb to the same, save them. Appreciate them, guide them, lead them, listen to them, talk to them, do what it takes to shake them out of that emotionalism. But if you are not strong enough, don't get into that game. Give as much as you can and not more. Yatha Shakti. You should give your resources according to your capability. Your time according to your capability. Resources according to your capability. That's why when people say you should sleep 5.5 or 6 hours, according to your capability, if you can't, your life will be miserable. Your day will be dangerous. But if you can work on 5.5, 6 hours, do it. Last 3 minutes. When I was in university, I got a lot of useless emails from people I knew and people I didn't know. Whether it was non-veg jokes or cartoon images, etc., etc. I like that term, non-veg. I don't like non-veg, I like the term non-veg. So I thought to myself, what if someone sent me a positive message? What if someone sent a cool picture? You know, something that took me out of my perspective. So when I came back from the Vedanta course, I started to implement what I wanted. And I started writing the e-vichara, I started using Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And now every day I post in those portals, email every 2 weeks. And I'm encouraging you to fill your electronic desk with that same positivity. Anyone who specifically would like to receive the e-vichara, which is an email I send every 2 weeks, with quotes, podcasts, jokes. I'm going to start including jokes now, as corny as possible. Announcements, events, satsang. That's what I try to send. Then Parag will have a sheet of paper in both areas in the back on both desks outside, and you can write your email address clearly. And if you don't get the email, it's because you didn't write clearly. Cause and effect. Because some people come to me and say, you know, we are not getting the e-vichara. And I tell them, I have nothing better to do than exclude your email address from this database. So please write clearly, and please remember that this is one-way communication, the e-vichara. I can't keep up with administration through email, philosophy, Definitely not. Please respect those boundaries. If I had the time, I'd give more. I just don't. So that's why I will put a plea out one day to buy a helicopter. So, so I don't have to drive all over the place. I can just fly. Then I'll answer all your questions electronically.